When he finally reached the energy chamber, it was more magnificent and terrifying than he had imagined. The core glowed with a searing light pulsing like a heartbeat. Streams of raw energy crackled in the air, and the heat was intense, almost unbearable. Mark could feel it thrumming through his body even from a distance. One wrong move, one miscalculation, and it would kill him instantly. He prepared the containment device carefully, his hands steady despite the danger. His mind focused solely on one thing, saving the girl's life. He remembered the parents' faces, the hope in their eyes, the desperate love that had brought him here. He would not let them down. As he touched the energy, a shock ran through him. It was like fire and ice at the same time, burning and freezing every nerve. He gritted his teeth, clenching his hands around the device. Pain surged through him, but he ignored it, willing himself to hold on. The energy resisted, snapping and lashing like a wild beast, yet he coaxed it, guided it, restrained it. Far above in the city, the girl's parents waited, praying and whispering her name. They felt the planet tremble, a pulse that rattled their bones and shook the ground beneath them. Fear gripped their hearts, and yet they refused to move, refused to give up hope. Mark's body screamed in protest. His vision blurred. His muscles burned. But he could see the energy beginning to respond, to flow into the containment device, controlled and contained. One final surge, one last effort, and he managed to stabilize it. Every drop of strength he had was gone, but the energy, pure, powerful, life-saving, was now secure in his hands. He stumbled back from the chamber, barely able to stand, his breath ragged and uneven. He had done it. The impossible had been done. The dangerous, deadly energy that could save the girl's life was now his to deliver. Mark's mind raced with relief and exhaustion. He knew the hardest part was over, but the most important part, the healing, was yet to come. He had risked everything, his life, his health, for someone he had never met. And still he felt no regret, only a quiet satisfaction. He thought of the parents again, waiting with hope that had survived against impossible odds. He thought of the girl, lying fragile and small, unaware of the danger that had just passed to give her another chance at life. Mark whispered to himself, his voice hoarse from effort, "I'm coming back. You will live, I promise." With the energy secured, he began the long and careful journey back, every step heavy with exhaustion but filled with determination. For Mark, it was never about reward. It was never about glory. It was about life, one chance, and he would carry it through no matter what it cost. Mark returned to the city slowly, each step heavier than the last. His body ached from the energy's intensity, his muscles screamed, and his mind felt lightheaded. But he held the containment device tightly. Every moment counted. Every second without the energy could cost the girl her life. The alien parents waited in the chamber, their hands clasped together, faces etched with worry. The father's jaw was tight, and the mother's eyes shone with tears that reflected the soft light of their city. When Mark entered, the fear in their eyes transformed into relief, but it was tinged with new anxiety. They knew how dangerous this mission had been. "You made it," the mother whispered, voice shaking. You brought it." Mark nodded, struggling to keep his balance. "Yes," he said, his voice hoarse. "I have it, but it is not easy. This energy, it is alive in a way you cannot imagine. It burns, it resists. If I had not controlled it perfectly, it could have killed me instantly." The father stepped forward, trembling. "You risked your life for our daughter. We offered you anything, and yet you did it for nothing but her life. Why?" Mark looked at the small, fragile girl lying on the glowing bed. She was pale, her breathing weak but steady. Her tiny chest rose and fell slowly, as if each breath was a gift. He felt a lump in his throat, and his eyes stung with tears he tried to hold back. "Because life is worth saving," he said simply. "Because someone has to care. That's all." The alien doctors prepared to transfer the energy, setting up containment fields and infusion conduits. The parents watched, holding their daughter's hands lightly, whispering to her, willing her to survive. Mark assisted as best as he could, but the energy was volatile. One wrong move and it could destroy the room. As the infusion began, Mark placed his hands near the girl, focusing all his strength, all his attention, on controlling the energy. His body burned with it, a searing sensation spreading from his chest to his fingertips. The alien doctors worked quickly, monitoring every fluctuation, adjusting the fields, their faces tight with concentration. The room filled with a low hum, the energy moving, alive, intertwining with the girl's life force. Her small body trembled, and Mark felt his heart leap with fear. "Stay with us," he whispered, not knowing if she could hear but needing to say it anyway. Minutes felt like hours. Every second was a test of patience, control, and faith. Then slowly her chest rose more steadily. Color returned to her pale skin. Her eyes fluttered open, confusion and fear giving way to recognition. She reached for her mother, and a weak but genuine smile spread across her face. Her mother gasped, tears falling freely now, and the father's hands shook as he held his daughter. You saved her," the mother whispered, voice breaking. We cannot thank you enough." Mark shook his head, exhaustion weighing him down. "No thanks," he said softly. "Seeing her alive? That is all I need. That is enough." The parents tried to offer him gifts, planets, knowledge, treasures beyond human imagination, but he refused. "I don't want anything," he said firmly. "Your daughter's life. That is the gift. That is what matters." For a moment the room was silent except for the girl's soft breathing and the low hum of the machines. Then the mother pressed her hand to her chest and said quietly, "You are not just a human. You are more than we can imagine. You gave her life when no one else could." Mark smiled weakly, sitting back, his body trembling with relief and exhaustion. He realized then that the universe was full of wonders. But the greatest wonder he had ever seen was the power of one person choosing to care, to act, to save a life, even at great personal risk. And in that quiet chamber, with the girl safe in her parents' arms, Mark understood something he had always known but never felt so clearly. Courage and compassion were not limited by species, by stars, or by worlds. They were universal. They were human. He whispered to himself more quietly than anyone could hear, "You're going to be okay. You're going to live." The room was quiet except for the gentle hum of the machines and the soft, steady breathing of the girl. Mark sat nearby, exhausted but alert, his body trembling from the energy he had controlled. Every fiber of him ached, but he did not care. His eyes never left the small figure on the glowing bed, whose fragile chest now rose and fell with a rhythm steadier than before. The alien parents hovered close, their hands never leaving their daughter's small form. They whispered words of encouragement, of hope, of love. Their glowing eyes reflected a mixture of awe, relief, and lingering fear. They had offered him the universe, had promised anything, yet here he was, refusing reward, refusing glory. He had done it because life itself mattered to him, and that was more powerful than any treasure they could offer. The girl's eyes fluttered open, revealing a faint shimmer of life returning to them. She blinked, confused at first, and then recognition washed over her. Her tiny hand stretched weakly toward her mother. The mother gasped, tears spilling freely, and caught her child in a trembling embrace. You're alive," the mother whispered, her voice choked with emotion. "We feared we had lost you." The girl's lips curved into a small, fragile smile. I feel better," she whispered, her voice faint but filled with wonder. The father pressed his hands to his daughter's back, his eyes shining with tears of relief. "It's true. She is alive," he said, voice breaking. "Thanks to him, he saved her." Mark felt a lump form in his throat. He had never expected praise or recognition. He had only wanted her to live. Seeing the family reunited, seeing hope restored, filled him with a warmth that was almost unbearable. The exhaustion, the pain, the risk, all of it melted away in that moment of pure human connection. The alien doctors observed silently, their expressions unreadable at first, but then softening into something almost like admiration. Even for being so advanced, the courage and determination Mark had shown were extraordinary. He had risked his life, controlled energy that could have destroyed him, all for the sake of another's life. No technology, no wealth, no weapon could replicate that. It was uniquely human. The girl's parents attempted to offer him rewards again, gestures grander than anything imaginable, a gift of knowledge, of power, of worlds. But Mark shook his head. "I don't want anything," he said softly. "Seeing her alive? That is enough. That is all the reward I need." The mother placed a hand gently on his shoulder, her eyes glimmering. "You are not just a human," she said quietly. "You are a light in the darkness. You gave life when there was none left. You are part of our family now, in a way no one else could ever be." The father nodded, his hand still holding his daughter. "Your courage, your heart. It is something our world has never seen. You remind us that even in the vast universe, hope can shine through the smallest of beings. Mark smiled weakly, tears gathering at the corners of his eyes. He realized then that this mission had been more than saving a life. It had been a bridge between worlds, a reminder that courage, compassion, and love were universal languages. The girl's breathing was steady now, her strength returning. She reached up, her small fingers brushing against Mark's hand as if to thank him. The gesture was simple, silent, but it carried more weight than any words could express. Mark knelt beside her, his eyes meeting hers. "You're going to be okay," he said gently. "You're going to live a full life and you'll never know how close you came to losing it. But you're safe now." Her parents hugged her tightly, their tears falling freely. Mark watched them, his heart swelling with quiet pride and fulfillment. For a moment he felt the vastness of the universe around him, but it was no longer frightening. It was filled with life, hope, and courage because humanity had the power to be brave, to care and to act when it mattered most. In that quiet chamber, surrounded by alien technology and glowing light, Mark understood something profound. The true strength of humanity was not in weapons, ships, or wealth. It was in compassion, in courage, and in the willingness to risk everything to save a life. And in saving one fragile child, Mark had reminded an entire world, and perhaps even the universe, of what it truly meant to be human. The city glimmered under the pale blue light of the alien sun, casting long shadows from towers that floated in the air. Mark stood at the top of the tallest tower, looking out at the horizon. The wind, or something like wind, caressed his face, carrying scents of alien flowers that he had never known. The girl was safe now, her life restored, her fragile chest rising and falling with steady, strong breaths. Behind him, the alien parents approached, their movements careful, but filled with gratitude. The mother's eyes shimmered with tears. The father's hand still shook from holding his daughter so tightly moments before. "You saved her," the mother said softly, her voice quivering. "You risked your life for ours, for hers. For a being you did not even know. Why?" Mark turned to look at them, his tired eyes meeting theirs. "Because she deserved to live," he said simply. "Because someone has to care. Because life matters. That is why I did it." The father stepped closer, placing a hand on Mark's shoulder. "We offered you anything, and yet you refused everything. You did not want power, wealth, or knowledge. You only wanted to save a child. You are different from anyone we have ever known." Mark shook his head, smiling faintly. "I'm just human," he said. "But humans can choose to do the right thing. Sometimes that's enough to make a difference." The mother held her daughter's hand as she stepped forward. "We wish we could give you something. A gift worthy of your courage." Her voice broke as she looked at Mark. "Please take something, anything. You saved our world." Mark shook his head again. "I don't want anything," he said firmly. "Seeing her alive? That is all the reward I need. That is what matters." The girl, now sitting up, reached her tiny hand toward him. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice quiet but full of sincerity. Mark knelt beside her, placing a gentle hand in the air near hers, not touching but connecting in some unspoken way. Her smile was enough to erase all the pain and exhaustion he had felt. For a long moment, the four of them stood there in silence. The alien city shimmered around them, beautiful and alive, but Mark knew it was not the place that mattered. It was the choice, the courage, the humanity he had shown that would echo far beyond this planet. Finally, he stepped back toward his ship. "I have to leave now," he said. "There are other worlds, other lives that may need help someday." The parents' eyes filled with tears, their voices trembling. "You are part of our family now, even if you leave," the father said. "What you have done, it will not be forgotten. We will tell others about you, about what humanity can do." Mark nodded, feeling a warmth in his chest. He had never sought recognition, never craved fame, but knowing that his actions could inspire hope across worlds was a gift greater than anything material. The girl waved at him, her small face glowing with life and happiness. "Be safe," she said softly, "and come back someday." Mark smiled faintly, a lump in his throat. "I will," he whispered. "I promise." As he boarded his ship, he looked back at the alien city one last time. The towers glowed, the plants shimmered, and the family stood together, stronger than ever, bound by love and gratitude. For a brief moment, he felt the vastness of the universe shrink, not because it was smaller, but because he had made a difference, and that mattered more than all the stars. The engines hummed, and his ship lifted slowly, leaving the world behind. Yet he carried something with him that could never be left behind. The knowledge that humanity had the power to be a light, even in the darkest corners of the cosmos. Courage, compassion, and love. They were human, universal, and unstoppable. As the ship disappeared into the stars, the family watched, tears and hope mingling. The girls' laughter, clear and bright, echoed in their hearts. Mark had left their planet, but he had left something far greater behind. A legacy of humanity at its very best. And somewhere out there, across the endless darkness of space, a human had reminded the universe of what it truly meant to care. Mark's ship moved through the silent expanse of space, stars stretching infinitely in every direction. He felt the exhaustion of his journey pressing heavily on him, but also a quiet, deep satisfaction. The girl's life had been saved, and the family he had met on that alien world would never forget what he had done. Yet more than that, he realized the universe itself had witnessed humanity's courage, proof that even a single human could make a difference in unimaginable ways. Back on the alien planet, the family held each other close. The girl was healthy now, her fragile body no longer trembling, her laughter filling the room. "I'm alive," she said, a smile bright on her face, and the parents cried, relief washing through them like a tide. They had offered anything for her life, but in the end, they had received something far greater than they could have imagined, the proof that compassion and courage could exist even across worlds. Word of Mark's bravery spread quickly, first through whispers among the alien cities, then across star systems. They told stories of the human who had ventured into the planet's core, who had faced death itself to save a single life. They spoke of his refusal to accept gifts, his insistence that life alone was worth protecting. Across the galaxy, beings began to wonder about humanity, not just as explorers or traders, but as a species capable of incredible empathy, bravery, and selflessness. Mark himself did not seek recognition. He drifted through space, sometimes visiting distant worlds, sometimes quietly observing the stars. He carried with him the memory of the girl's smile, the tearful gratitude of her parents, and the warmth that had filled that alien chamber. Those memories reminded him why humans could matter, even in a universe so vast and full of danger. In the quiet of his ship, he reflected on the journey. The galaxy was filled with power, with technology, with creatures beyond imagination. But what truly mattered was the courage to act, the choice to protect life, even when it came at great personal risk. Humans, small and fragile, were capable of that, and perhaps in time, that choice would echo farther than any weapon, farther than any starship, farther than any empire. Meanwhile, the alien family rebuilt their lives. They marveled at the simple truth Mark had shown them, that even a being so different from them, from another species, could give the greatest gift imaginable without asking for anything in return. They taught their daughter about him, telling her how a human had shown their world the power of kindness, bravery, and sacrifice. She grew up inspired, dreaming of the stars and of the lives she could touch, carrying Mark's example in her heart. In distant space, Mark continued his journey, knowing there would always be challenges, dangers, and lives that needed saving. He had learned that it was not strength alone, not knowledge, not weapons, but the courage to do the right thing that truly defined humanity. And wherever he went, he left behind a quiet legacy, hope. Sometimes, when he looked back at the stars behind him, he imagined the girl looking up at the same sky, knowing she was alive because a human had chosen to care. And he smiled, silently promising to keep honoring that choice, to keep proving that humanity could shine brightly. Even in the darkest corners of the universe, Mark's story became legend, not because he sought fame, but because life itself remembered him. Across worlds and galaxies, beings told of the human who had risked everything to save a child, who had shown that courage and compassion were the truest measure of strength. He became a symbol of hope, of the best humanity could offer, and of a truth that even the coldest, most alien corners of the universe could not deny. When humans choose to act with love, with courage, and with selflessness, they become something greater than themselves. They become a light in the darkness, a force the universe cannot ignore, and in saving one fragile alien child, Mark had reminded the universe of that undeniable truth. Humanity was capable of greatness not through conquest, not through power, but through the choice to care. And that choice, simple, human, unstoppable, would echo forever. Mark had seen many planets in his life, but none like this. As his small human ship pierced the pale blue atmosphere, the world below seemed to glow with an unearthly light. The towers stretched into the sky, floating without any visible support, and strange plants with translucent leaves swayed gently, even though there was no wind. Creatures with long limbs and glowing eyes moved with grace and curiosity, stopping occasionally to observe the newcomer. When the ship landed softly on a smooth silver surface, Mark felt a shiver run down his spine. He was used to danger, to strange worlds, but this was different. There was a quiet desperation here, something in the air that made his chest tighten. From the shadows of the towers, a small group began to approach. They were taller than humans, with skin that shimmered like liquid silver. Their eyes were large, filled with an intelligent light, yet the sadness within them was impossible to miss. The leader, a woman, stepped forward, her movements hesitant but determined. She looked directly at Mark, her gaze breaking and pleading at the same time. "Please, human," she said, her voice soft but carrying weight. "Our daughter, she is dying. We have tried everything. She may not live." Mark studied her face. There was no trickery, no false hope. Only fear, raw and consuming. And yet there was a dignity, a grace in how she stood, how she spoke. "We can offer anything," another of the aliens said. "Anything you wish. We will give you anything to save her life." Mark felt a knot tighten in his stomach. Wealth, power, knowledge of the stars. He had seen humans die chasing these things. He had seen civilizations destroyed because greed blinded them. And here in front of him was a family willing to give the universe for their child. Yet all he felt was a quiet pull in his chest, a deep urge to help. Not for reward, not for fame, but because it was the right thing to do. He stepped out of the ship, the metal of his boots clinking softly against the alien surface. The family flinched slightly, unsure of what a human might do, but Mark raised his hands in peace. "I will help," he said slowly, "but you must trust me completely. No tricks, no hiding anything. Only trust." Their eyes widened, hope and fear colliding. This human, so fragile compared to their strength, so small compared to the vastness of the universe, was willing to risk himself for a child he had never met. It was almost impossible to comprehend. "Follow me," Mark said. He motioned toward his ship. The family hesitated, then nodded, and he could see tears beginning to form in their luminous eyes. They moved like shadows gliding over the silver surface, careful not to touch him but desperate to close the distance. Inside his ship, the atmosphere was quieter, yet the tension was almost unbearable. The alien child lay on a bed glowing with soft light, her chest rising and falling in tiny, uneven motions. Tubes and strange machines surrounded her, humming with life-saving energy. Mark knelt beside the bed, looking at the fragile form of the girl. She was no more than 10 years old, with skin that shimmered faintly and hair that seemed almost alive, flowing like liquid silver. Her breathing was shallow, and Mark could see the fear in her eyes even in sleep. Her parents knelt beside her, trembling. "Please," the mother whispered, voice breaking, "please save her. Anything we have, it is yours." "Take it," Mark shook his head. "I don't want anything," he said softly, more to himself than to them. "I only want her to live." The room fell silent, the weight of their desperation pressing down on him like a physical force. Mark felt something he rarely allowed himself feel, empathy so strong it hurt. He thought of the humans he had left behind, of children who had grown up without parents, of lives destroyed by indifference, and he realized that he could not leave this girl to die, not when he had the power to help. For the first time in months, Mark felt a spark of hope ignite within him. He had come to this planet expecting challenges, expecting danger, expecting a world full of strange creatures, but what he had found was something far more profound. A family's love, pure and unyielding, willing to give the universe itself for a single life. And in that moment, Mark knew whatever it took, however dangerous it might be, he would save this girl, not for reward, not for glory, but because life itself was worth fighting for. Mark had never seen technology like this. The alien city was alive, pulsing with colors that shifted like a living rainbow. Machines moved without hands, gliding through the air as if they had thoughts of their own. The walls shimmered with soft light, and the floor beneath him felt warm, almost welcoming. But no matter how beautiful the city was, Mark's attention stayed on the child. The girl lay on a glowing bed, surrounded by strange devices he could not understand. Tubes and thin wires connected her to machines that hummed with soft energy. Her breathing was shallow and her chest rose and fell with effort. Her parents stayed close, their long fingers intertwined, their faces drawn with worry and fear. "You are a human," the mother said softly, her voice trembling. "You come from far away, and yet you are here, will you? Will you help her?" Mark knelt beside the bed, careful not to touch her. "I will do everything I can," he said quietly. "But you must promise me something first." The parents looked at him, hope shining in their eyes. "Anything," they said together, voices breaking. "Anything you ask, we will give. You can have our world, our knowledge, everything. Just save her." Mark shook his head, his expression serious. "I don't want anything. Nothing you can give matters to me, but you must trust me completely. You cannot hold back anything from me. You must tell me everything about her illness, every detail, every symptom, every treatment you have tried." The parents exchanged a glance, a mix of relief and fear. They nodded slowly as if understanding the weight of his words. "We will tell you everything," the father said. "We have no secrets. We only want her to live." Mark began asking questions. What symptoms had she shown? How long had she been sick? Which treatments had failed? The parents answered patiently, even though their hands shook and tears ran freely. Mark listened carefully, noting every detail. He could see the fear in their eyes, but also something else. An unwavering love, a determination that their daughter would survive no matter what. "You love her very much," Mark said finally, his voice soft. "I can see that. And because of that love, I promise I will do everything to save her. But it will not be easy. This may be dangerous for her, for me, for all of you. Are you ready to trust me completely?" "Yes," the mother whispered, pressing a hand to her chest. "We trust you, please. Save her." The father nodded, his jaw tight with emotion. "Anything. Anything you ask, just bring her back to us." Mark felt a lump in his throat. Humans had always fought wars over small things, over greed, over pride, but this family from another world entirely was offering the universe itself to protect a single life, and yet he did not feel tempted by their offer. He did not want gifts, wealth, or power. He only wanted to save a life, to do what was right. "I promise," he said, looking at the girl. "I will not fail, but I need you to prepare yourself. What I am about to do may be frightening. It may push limits that even your people have not seen before, but if we succeed, she will live." The parents clutched each other's hands tightly, tears running down their glowing faces. "We are ready," the mother said. "Do what you must. We trust you completely." Mark looked at the child once more. Her small chest rose and fell, her lips slightly parted as if she were dreaming. He placed a hand gently in the air above her, not touching but feeling the energy that seemed to radiate from her. Her life was fragile, delicate as glass, but inside her burned a spark, one that refused to die. And in that moment, Mark understood something profound. This was not just a mission, not just a challenge. This was a promise, a bond between human and alien, a chance to prove that courage and love could cross even the greatest distances in the universe. He took a deep breath and whispered, more to himself than anyone else, "I will save you, no matter the cost." Mark studied the alien medical records carefully. The girl's illness was unlike anything humans had seen before. It was fast, relentless, and resistant to every treatment the alien doctors had tried. Their technology was advanced, far beyond human understanding, but even their knowledge had limits. The solution, the only thing that could save her, required an energy source from deep within the planet's core, a place so dangerous that no one had survived a full mission there before. He looked at the parents, their eyes wide with fear and hope. "This is the only way," he said. "The energy is unstable. It could kill me. It could fail, but without it she will not survive." The mother's voice trembled. "Anything we can do, we will. Please, you must survive. We cannot lose her." "I will try," Mark replied, though he knew try was not enough.
"I have to succeed."
"I will not let her die." The journey to the core was terrifying. The path descended into dark tunnels that pulsed with heat and light, and the walls seemed almost alive, moving slightly as if the planet itself was aware of his presence. Gravity shifted unpredictably, and strange magnetic fields tugged at his body. Every step was a struggle, every breath a fight. And yet, he pressed on, thinking of the girl, thinking of the love and hope that drove this family to reach out to him.